Salve. Hi. This lesson is a lesson from Adler's textbook, a practical grammar of the Latin language for speaking and writing Latin, and you will find that on Google Books quite easily. We are on lesson 3, pensum tertium, that's on page 10 of the textbook. In this lesson we're going to look at the second declension, and then we're going to look at a bit of vocabulary, a little bit of grammar, and then a few sentences, question-response type things. The second declension we've already looked at before in the previous lesson, but I'm going to go over it again very briefly. And of course, when we do declensions, we use our magic glove. So here it is. Second declension: nominative, vocative, genitive, dative, accusative, ablative. So there we have it, the wonderful magic glove. The endings of this declension are generally us, and words ending in us are usually masculine, but not always. Another ending we find in this declension is or ir, and these are generally masculine. And also we find the ending of course, is neuter, or as we'd say it in Latin, neuter. Neuter. So we're going to decline my master. So in the nominative, here we have it, meus dominus. In the genitive, that's this one here, mei domini. Now, note that the genitive, that's the possessive case of this second, ends in an I. What distinguishes each of the declensions is that the genitives of each of them are different. There are some similarities in the other cases, but the genitives of each of these declensions is distinct. And so in the dictionary, they will give you the nominative, and then they will give you the genitive. And of course, the genitive tells you which form of word it is, whether it's first, second, third, fourth, or fifth. So you can tell that immediately from the genitive. So if the genitive ends in e, as in domini, then you know that it's going to be a second declension. I'm not being rude. Maybe I am. Well, you'll have to live with it. So, meus dominus, mei domini are my masters, or of my master. So, meus dominus, my master, as it's in the subject of a sentence, it's going to be here, the subject of a sentence. If it's possessive, mei domini. If it's dative, that's here, meo domino. And if it's accusative, meum dominum. And if it's ablative, once again, meo domino. Now, we haven't done the vocative. Remember, in the second declension, it's the only one where the vocative is different. So dominus becomes domine. Meus, however, becomes me. So we say mi domine. So mi domine. Hello, my master. Salve mi domine. Hello, my master. And this me, it's sometimes also in some texts simply meus. Sometimes it's me. And we'll learn about why that happens in a different lesson. let's look at the word liber. A liber is a book. So here's one. As you can see, it is the practical grammar of the Latin language. That's what we are using, a great big hefty tome. It's quite a lot of Latin to get through. So, liber. Liber tuus. Tuus means yours. So liber is a masculine word, and once again it's in the second declension. It ends in er, liber. So we have here liber tuus, your book, liber tuus. And then we have the genitive, which tells us which case it's in. Libri tui, your books or of your book. Libri tui, your books or of your book. And then we have the dative, libro tuo. The accusative, librum tuum. And what we're doing next, the vocative, here we have it, liber tue. So liber doesn't change its form in the vocative, unlike dominus, which becomes domine. It ends in us. Liber ends in er, and so it doesn't change its form in the vocative. But tuus ends in us, and so it does change its form in the vocative. So tuus becomes tue, but liber stays liber. So liber tue, right? If I were talking to the book, that is, right? I would say, hello, your book. Strange thing. Not something that one would ever say in real life. But there we have it. And the ablative, libro tuo. Finally, we have a neuter word, saccharum, sugar, saccharum. So it's also on this second declension, the second finger, and it goes like this. And we'll notice something quite interesting about it. So it's saccharum bonum, good sugar. Notice that the saccharum ends in and bonum has changed to match it, because it agrees. We say it agrees with it. Saccharum bonum. In the genitive, as I said, you can always spot the genitives of any particular declension. They will always match. So if it's on this finger, the declension will be the same. Saccari boni, just like libri boni it would be, or domini boni. So libri, domini, saccari. So saccari boni. Saccharum bonum, good sugar. Saccari boni, good sugars, or of good sugar, or of the good sugar, as you may have it. The dative, following the same pattern, saccaro bono. The accusative, we already have saccharum bonum here in the nominative. The accusative, saccharum bonum. So saccharum bonum, and here in the accusative, saccharum bonum. The vocative, also, it doesn't end in us, and so the vocative does not change. So saccharum bonum, and here we have saccharum bonum. Saccharum bonum. Saccharum bonum, saccharum bonum, saccharum bonum. So the neuter has got the same form in the nominative and in the vocative and in the accusative. Saccharum bonum, saccharum bonum, saccharum bonum. Genitive, saccari boni, and the dative, saccaro bono, and of course the dative and the ablative are the same, and so here we have with the ablative, saccaro bono. And that gives us the form of a second declension, which we've already seen in the previous lesson. This final letter I of the genitive is long, so it's sakari bunny, not sakari bunny, but sakari bunny. In general, an I on the end of any Latin word is long, except for some words we've actually seen already. Est mihi, est tibi. So mihi, tibi. It's not mihi, tibi, but mihi and tibi, sibi, where it's common. That means that sometimes it's long, sometimes it's short, but generally speaking, in spoken Latin it's short. Sometimes a poet might want to lengthen it for poetical purposes to match the syllable, the number of syllables in the line. The O of the dative and ablative, as we've seen, sakaro bono, is long. So the final O is long. And the O of the dative and ablative of this declension, you will find that they are always long. In Latin words in general, however, the O on the end of a word is common. So amo, I love, amo, amo, can be amor or it can be amo. But generally speaking, it's not too long in normal spoken Latin. Now we're going to look at a few other little words. In most grammar books, you will find that the masculine is given before the feminine, and the feminine is given before the neuter. I think this is done for reasons that are to do with the antiquated idea that the masculine comes before the feminine comes before the neuter, because grammatically it makes no sense at all. Because if we have our first and second declensions, the first declension form is generally feminine, and the second declension form ending in us generally masculine, and the neuter is also in the second declension. So it makes more sense to go feminine first and then second. And that's how we're going to do it. We're going to learn it feminine, masculine, neuter. That's how we're going to be learning all of our forms, where there are three forms involved. We're going to do first, second, and then the masculine and the neuter on this form. So let's have a look at the word which of many. And so it is quae in the nominative, quae, and in the masculine it is qui. In the neuter it is quad or it is quid. Quad or quid. So quae, qui, and in the neuter, quad or quid. The accusative, it is quam in the feminine, quam, quem for a masculine, and once again quad or quid for the neuter. So quam, quem, or quad or quid. And that means which of many. Which out of two. So which one out of two, whether one or the other, is a bit different. It's utra in the feminine, and then it's uter in the masculine, and utrum in the neuter. So utra, uter, utrum. Utra, uter, utrum. And that, of course, is in the nominative, because all of these top joints, the tips of the fingers, are the nominative. In the accusative, it's utram for the first. So utram. Then we have for the masculine, we have utrum, And for the neuter, utrum. So utram, utrum, utrum. And for the which of many, quae, qui, and quod or quid. Good. We've already seen saccharum bonum, good sugar. Let's have a look at how the word good is adjusted for whether it is modifying a masculine noun or a feminine noun or a neuter noun. So here we go. Bona, bona, bonus, and bonum. So we have the a ending here on the feminine, the us ending for the masculine, and the ending for the neuter. So bona, bonus, just like dominus, and bonum, just like saccharum. So bona, bonus, bonum. And in the accusative, it's very, very simple. It's bonam, so bona, bonam, bonus, bonum, and of course the neuter, it's the same here and here, so it's also bonum and bonum without any change. Magnus means big, magnus, and it has a similar type of thing. Magna, ending in a, magna, magnus for the masculine, so feminine, magna, magnus for the masculine, magnum for the neuter. And of course the neuter here is the same as the neuter accusative, so magnum and magnum for the neuter. Magna in the nominative, magnam, magnam in the accusative. So magna, magnam, magnus, magnum, and for the neuter, magnum and magnum. Very good. The next word we want to look at, malus, meaning bad. Malus. So we have mala, mala, feminine, bad, mala, malus, and malum. And then in the accusative we have mala here, malam here, we have malus here and malum here, and we have malum here for the neuter and malum here. So mala, malus, malum, and malam, mala, malam, malus, malum, malum, malum. Very good. This malus, by the way, is only bad when you're talking about people, so like bad behavior, bad morals, that kind of thing. The bad in the sense of worthless is different, and note that actually we'll deal with that word a little bit later on. Let's look at pulcher. Pulcher means beautiful. So you can go around talking about pulchritudinous policemen if you really feel so inclined. Pulcher meaning beautiful. So here we have it again. Pulchra in the feminine nominative, pulchra, and then we have pulcher. So pulchra, pulcher, and pulchrum. Pulchra, pulcher, pulchrum. So pulcher is like liber, the word for book, in this declension. So pulchra, pulcher, pulchrum. And in the accusative, pulchra, pulcram, pulcher, pulcrum, and we have here pulcrum in the neuter and pulcrum in the accusative. I'll stop here and we can go on in a moment. Have a rest. Okay, I'm back. And now we're going to look at two other adjectives. Now we've done adjectives that are of the first declension and adjectives that are of the second declension. There are also adjectives of the third declension. Now we've seen that it's bona, bonus, bonum. Adjectives of the third declension work slightly differently because they go in the feminine and the masculine, they have the same form. So wheelis means worthless, wheelis, wheelis, and the neuter also on the same finger, wheele. So wheelis, wheelis, wheele. Here we had the masculine and the neuter on the same finger. Here the feminine and the masculine are the same and the neuter on the same finger. So it's very similar to this situation except that they're all together. So feminine and masculine with the same form and then the neuter. So wheelis, which is feminine or masculine, and wheele, neuter. So it's wheelis, wheelis, wheele. But we can just say wheelis and wheele, and we'll know that the wheelis is going to be both feminine and it's going to be masculine. In the accusative, the same thing applies. It's wheelam and wheelam for the feminine and the masculine. So run through here, wheelam and wheelam, both the same, just like it's wheelis and wheelis. We also know that from here, the neuter gender is the same in the nominative and the accusative. So the neuter here is wheele, wheele, and so the accusative here, of course, is going to be the same. Wheele, run down here for the neuter gender, neuter wheele, and accusative neuter wheele. So wheelis, wheelis, wheele, wheelam, wheelam, wheele. Let's look at another adjective that follows the same pattern. Ugly. And this is turpis. Turpis means ugly. Once again, the masculine and the feminine have the same ending, turpis. So it's turpis and turpis. And the neuter, turpe. So turpis for the masculine and the feminine, turpe for the neuter. Because the neuter is turpe, the accusative is going to have the same form. Accusative, turpe. Turpis, turpis for the masculine and the feminine. They all have the neuter form. Let's run down to the accusative. Sorry, turpis, turpis, masculine and feminine will have the accusative, turpem, turpem. So turpem, turpis, turpis. Or wheelem, wheelis, wheelis. Wheele, wheele. Turpe, turpe. So turpe is ugly in the neuter. Turpis, ugly in the masculine or feminine, that's nominative. Turpin, turpem, masculine and feminine of ugly in the accusative. And turpe is the neuter of the accusative, ugly. So turpe, accusative, and neuter, ugly. Just like wheelis, wheelis, wheele, wheelis, wheelis, wheele, turpis, turpis, turpe, all on the same finger. Very good. Let's have a look at some phrases, also using our magic declension glove. Saccharum meum bonum. So my good sugar. So saccharum, sugar, meum, my, bonum, good. So saccharum meum bonum, my good sugar. So saccharum is here. It's a second declension word, and it's neuter. Saccharum. So meum has to agree with it, my. So it's also here. Meum. Saccharum meum. And bonum has to agree with it, so it's also here. Bonum. Saccharum meum bonum. And that's in the nominative. As saccharum is a neuter word, it's going to have the same thing going on in the accusative. Saccharum meum bonum. So it's identical here. Saccharum meum bonum. Saccharum meum bonum. Now, pay close attention. Wile is a third declension form, meaning bad or worthless. So wile is neuter, but it's on this finger. Saccharum is neuter, but it's on this finger. So how do we say my worthless sugar? So saccharum, that's the noun. Meum, agreeing with it, meum. Wile, which is neuter, but it's this type, it's on this finger. It's this form. So saccharum meum wile. Saccharum meum wile. And of course, it's going to be the same in the accusative. Saccharum meum wile. Saccharum meum wile. So when we're doing this mixing and matching, it can be a little bit confusing because we are changing declensions, but we're not changing gender. Saccharum meum wile, my good sugar. Saccharum meum, my sugar, wile, bad. So saccharum, sugar, meum, my, wile, bad. Saccharum meum wile. Saccharum meum wile. Saccharum meum bonum, because bonum is on this finger. Bona, bonus, bonum. Wilis, wilis, wile. Saccharum, wile. Liber, bonus. Liber, bonus. Regina, a queen. Regina, bona. Regina, bona. Pileus. Pileus is a hat, and it's on this finger. Pileus, so an ugly hat, or an ugly hat. So Pileus turpis. Pileus turpis. Caharta pulchra. Caharta pulchra. Mensa pulchra. So caharta pulchra, pretty paper. Mensa pulchra, pretty table. Tainia pulchra, a pretty ribbon. All here, all agreeing with each other. And in the accusative, mensam pulchram, right? Video, I see mensam pulchram, I see pretty table. Video, I see tiniam pulchram, I see a pretty ribbon. Video tiniam pulchram. And video cahartam pulchram, I see cahartam pulchram in the accusative. Pileus turpis, because it's turpis, masculine or feminine. So it's pileus, a hat, turpis, ugly. Pileus turpis. Liber turpis. Sal, if it's masculine, sal turpis. If sal were neuter, which it can also be, sal turpe. Sal turpe. In the accusative, however, it's a little bit different. So Video pileum turpem. Note the ending's different because it's pileus, pileum, and it's turpis, turpem. So video pileum turpem. Video pileum turpem. Video pileum turpem. Video librum turpem. Video salem, if it were masculine, salem turpem. So I see an ugly hat. I see an ugly hat. Video pileum turpem. I see an ugly book. Video librum turpem. I see ugly salt. Video salem turpem. If we are going to ask the questions, which we saw before, the which questions, the quae and the qui and the quod or the quid. So quae, qui, quod. If we're going to ask questions, they also have to agree. So if we're going to ask which hat in the nominative. Now hat is masculine, so it's quis or qui. So here we have quis pileus. Quis is masculine, pileus is masculine. So quis pileus. Kaharta is feminine, so quae kaharta. Quae kaharta. Quis pileus. Quis pileus. And how about this one? Quod saccharum. Quod saccharum, because saccharum is neuter, it's in the second, so it's quod. Quod saccharum, because it's quae, feminine, quis or qui, masculine, and quod is the neuter. So quod saccharum, which sugar? Which sugar? We can also say this. Quid saccari. Quid saccari. Which of sugar? This is an idiomatic expression. Quid saccari. Which of sugar? Because it's the genitive here. So quid saccari. Which of sugar? Quid saccari. And that only works for neuter words. So it's only going to be the case that you could say quid with the genitive if the word is a neuter, like saccharum is a neuter. So quid saccari, which of sugar. The interrogative word quod is always used as an adjective attached to a noun, and it must agree with its noun in gender, and it must agree with it in number, singular and plural. So far we're only dealing with singulars. And it must agree with it in case, as we've seen before. So quae regina is agreeing with regina in case, and in gender it's feminine. Regina is a queen, so quae is the feminine form agreeing with regina, which is feminine. Quis pileus. Pileus is masculine and it's nominative. So quis is agreeing with it. Quis pileus. And quod saccharum. Saccharum is neuter. Quod is neuter. And quod saccharum. The masculine which is far more commonly qui than quis when it has a noun with it. So it's far more common to have qui than quis when we are asking about a noun. Right, let's have a look at some sentences. Estne tibi, is there to you, saccharum bonum. Estne tibi saccharum bonum, is there to you good sugar. Actually, I took this declension glove off. I'm going to put it back on again and just give you a bit of help with the parsing. One moment. So here we have again, est ne. Now this ne on the end is a question form. Est is here in the present tense. It is, so est, it is. Est ne, is it? Est ne tibi, to you. So est ne tibi saccharum bonum. Is it to you saccharum, sugar, bonum, good? Because it has to agree, so it has to be here on the same place. Est ne tibi saccharum bonum? And we could answer, sane, domine, certainly, sir, or certainly, Lord. Remember that we are addressing the Lord, we are talking to him, so it's dominus domine, sane domine, certainly, sir. Est mihi, est, it is, mihi, in the dative, to me, est mihi, saccharum bonum. So it is to me good sugar. Est mihi saccharum bonum. Now the verb habere, to have. Habeo, I have, this verb rules over the accusative. So if we're going to have something, we're going to have it here, and we're not going to have it here. Okay, so this is nominative. The accusatives are down here. So habesne, habesne. So habeo, I have. Habes, you have. So habesne, do you have? It's present tense. It's indicative. Habesne, do you have? Tinyam, tinyam. It's tinia, tiniam. So it's from this finger. Tinia, tiniam. Habesne, tiniam. And it has to agree. Pulchram. Habesne, tiniam, pulchram. Habesne, do you have? Tiniam, ribbon. Pulchram, pretty. So, do you have ribbon pretty? Habesne, tiniam, pulchram. In other words, do you have pretty ribbon? And response is habeo, I have. Present tense, indicative. First person, habeo, I have. Habeo, tiniam, pulchram. Habeo, tiniam, pulchram. I have pretty ribbon. Qui est tibi pileus? Qui est tibi pileus? Now, pileus is what this is all about. It's a hat, and it's masculine. So, qui pileus? Qui pileus? Which hat? Qui est? Which it is? Tibi, to you. Pileus. So, qui est tibi pileus? Qui, sorry, what am I doing? Qui est tibi pileus? Qui est tibi pileus? Which is it to you a hat? In other words, which hat have you got? Qui est tibi, to you, pileus, in the nominative. So, qui est tibi pileus? Which hat have you got? Which is it to you a hat? And the answer is est mihi pileus meus. So, est mihi, it is, mihi, to me, Pileus, a hat. Meus, my. Because pileus is masculine, so we have to meus, agreeing with it. Est mihi, it is to me. Pileus meus, it is to me, my hat. Or we could ask, quem pilium habes? Quem pilium habes? So, habes, habeo, first person. Habes, second person. That's you. I'm the first person. You're the second person. So, I have, you have. So, habes, you have. So, quem pilium habes. Habes, the verb habeo, takes the accusative. So, it has to be not pilius, but pilium, and therefore it has to be quem. So, quem pilium habes. Which hat do you have? Quem pilium habes. And the answer would be habeo pilium meum. I have my hat. Habeo pilium meum, or pilium meum habeo, a more elegant way of saying it. Pilium meum habeo. I have my hat. Or we could say pilium meum turpem habeo. I have my ugly hat. So it's pilium, because it's coming down from here, pilius, pilium, and then meum agrees with it. It's meus, so it's coming down here to the accusative meum. Ugly, however, is on this finger. Turpis, turpis, turpe. As turpis becomes turpem in the accusative. So pilium, meum from this finger, and turpem coming down from this finger. So pilium, meum, turpem habeo. I have my ugly hat. Pilium meum turpem habeo. Quae est tibi tinea? Which ribbon have you got? So, tinea is on this finger. It's feminine, tinea. So, est, it is, tibi, to you, tinea. But tinea is feminine, so it's quae, qui, quod. So it's quae tinea. So quae, which, quae, est tibi tinea. Because quae and tinea have to agree with each other. Okay? So quae est tibi tinea. Quae tinea, which hat? Quae, what? Which ribbon? My apologies, I'm getting a bit tired here. Quae tinea, which ribbon? Quae tinea est tibi. Which ribbon is it to you? And then tineam tuam pulchram habeo. So that's habeo, it governs the accusative. So we would say habeo here, indicative, first person, present tense, habeo, I have. Right? That requires the accusative. Tinea is feminine, so it's tineam. Therefore, if it's your hat, the word for you has to agree with it as well. So tineam, tuam, and we're going to say pretty, also has to agree with it, pulchram. So tineam, tuam, pulchram, habeo. So I have your pretty ribbon. And that brings us to the end of lesson 3, hopefully without too many glitches along the way. All right, hope you've learned something. Wale.